In the beginning of the episode we see Hiraku is shocked when he wakes up and sees several winged people, along with a bunch of angels, completely wrapped up and trapped inside Zabuton's giant spider webs. None of them can move properly, and every single one of them looks seriously pissed off. Not long after that, Gran Maria flies down to meet Hiraku. The moment she arrives, Hiraku immediately asks if she knows the angels caught in the webs. Gran Maria explains that after the new villages were established, the territory they had to manage became much larger than before. Because of that, they needed extra aerial support to properly keep watch over the area. So Gran Maria traveled to several other angel settlements to ask her people for help. But instead of receiving peaceful support, the daughter of one of the angel leaders gathered a group together and came to attack their village instead. Gran Maria then introduces the girl as Kyabit. The moment Kyabit hears herself being introduced, she immediately starts loudly demanding that Hiraku free them from the spider webs. She angrily complains that trapping her like this is no way to treat an angel princess. Hiraku calmly tells her to quiet down because if she had just approached the village like a normal visitor instead of attacking, none of this would have happened in the first place. Kyabit quickly explains that neither she nor her forces actually intended to hurt anyone. According to her, they only came to protect the pride and honor of their race because she believes Gran Maria abandoned her people and is now living a disgraceful and immoral life inside the Great Tree Village. Hiraku becomes completely confused after hearing that and admits he has no idea what she's talking about. Kyabit then explains further, revealing that Gran Maria never completed the traditional trial members of their race must go through in order to officially claim a husband. Hearing that only makes Hiraku even more confused than before. So he immediately pulls Gran Maria aside and asks her to explain things properly. Exactly what's going on? Gran Maria then explains that her race mostly consists of women. So in order to continue their bloodline and preserve their people, they usually have to bring men from other races back as husbands. However, they cannot just accept any random man they meet. According to their traditions, the chosen man must first be brought before their people and forced to go through a series of difficult trials to prove he is worthy enough to become a husband for one of their race. Gran Maria believes Kyabit is especially angry because both she and Tia have been living together with men in the village without ever properly completing the traditional angel trials first. Hiraku thinks they should just calmly explain the situation, but Gran Maria doubts that would work because Kyabit is extremely stubborn and almost never changes her mind once she decides something. A short while later, Hiraku releases all the captured angels and harpies from Zabuton's webs, but he intentionally leaves Kyabit hanging there by herself. After that, he calmly announces that he is officially treating what happened as an attack on his village since they attacked his home and were captured afterward. He explains that technically, he has the right to do whatever he wants with them. However, Hiraku also says he's willing to forgive all of them under one condition. If they agree to work under Gran Maria from now on, then he will completely overlook the attack. Without even hesitating, the harpies immediately agree and pledge their loyalty to Gran Maria on the spot. The angels, however, hesitate much more. They do not want to betray Kyabit because she is expected to become their future leader someday. If they turn against her now, they believe it could completely ruin their future within angel society. The harpies, on the other hand, honestly do not care very much because they are already used to serving angels no matter who ends up leading them. After hearing all of this, Hiraku realizes that the angels simply need a proper excuse to surrender without facing consequences in the future. He announces that attacking the village is considered a very serious crime, and because of that, Kyabit will have to face 10 punishments. However, he also adds another condition. For every angel who sincerely begs for forgiveness, one punishment will be removed from Kyabit's sentence. The moment the angels hear that, they immediately bow their heads and apologize because they are willing to do absolutely anything to protect Kyabit. Now that they have officially surrendered, both the angels and harpies are peacefully welcomed into the village. Even after all of that, though, Kyabit still stubbornly refuses to personally surrender. Because of this, Gran Maria asks Hiraku if he would be willing to participate in the traditional angel husband trials just to finally shut Kyabit up. Hearing that immediately makes Kyabit start rambling again because she does not believe someone as puny-looking as Hiraku could ever pass the trials. Surprisingly, Hiraku calmly agrees to take part in them, although he does mention that he hopes the tests do not involve fighting dangerous monsters. Gran Maria tells him he is actually not too far off, but she still believes he will succeed anyway. Shortly afterward, the three of them sit down together inside the house, and Hiraku asks Kyabit to properly explain what the trials involve. Kyabit confidently explains that the trials consist of 5 different parts. The first challenge is a test of wealth. For this trial, Hiraku must donate 777 gold coins to the angels. Kyabit smugly laughs because she assumes a small village like this could never possibly afford that amount of money. However, the moment Hiraku casually pulls out a Golgo stone worth more than 1,000 gold coins, Kyabit immediately freezes in shock. She quickly accepts the stone, which officially clears the first trial. The second challenge is a test of intelligence. Kyabit lays out a row of stones on a grid and explains the rules of the game. They will take turns removing stones, and whoever takes the very last stone loses the match. They can remove anywhere between 1 and 3 stones. Kyabit feels extremely confident because she assumes Hiraku is too dumb to beat her in a strategy game like this. However, Hiraku unexpectedly wins the first round with ease. Kyabit becomes frustrated and repeatedly demands rematches over and over again, but no matter how many times they play, Hiraku completely dominates every single match without any difficulty. The next challenge is a test of physical prowess. For this round, Kyabit is allowed to choose anyone she wants for Hiraku to compete against. Without hesitation, she chooses Lucy, the devastating vampire princess, because she assumes there is no way Hiraku could ever beat someone as powerful as her. However, Kyabit has absolutely no idea that Lucy is already Hiraku's loving wife. Because of that, the entire challenge ends in a very unexpected way. Instead of having some brutal fight, Hiraku casually defeats Lucy in a simple game of shadow boxing, which officially clears the third trial. The fourth challenge is a test of negotiation skills. For this trial, Hiraku is supposed to successfully negotiate and strike a deal with the supposedly impossible gatekeeper dragon who rules over the Guru Grant Mountains. Kyabit confidently assumes there is no way Hiraku could ever complete something like that. However, shortly afterward, the dragon suddenly arrives at the village, and to Kyabit's complete disbelief, it turns out he is already one of Hiraku's business partners. Seeing that leaves Kyabit completely speechless because the challenge ends before it even properly begins. The fifth and final challenge is a test of luck. According to Kyabit, all Hiraku has to do to pass is flip a coin and make it land on heads. Hiraku flips the coin, and it actually lands on heads. However, Kyabit secretly cheats at the last second and quickly flips the coin over to tails, causing Hiraku to technically lose the challenge. Just then, Tia suddenly arrives and immediately uses her magic to flip the coin back onto heads again. Kyabit tries to argue, but it does not work, and it ends up. Doing something like that with magic goes against the rules. But she knows better than to argue directly with Tia, so she quickly stops complaining. After all, the trials are finally over. Hiraku later speaks privately with Tia about Kyabit's strange behavior. Tia explains that Kyabit's mother once lowered the difficulty of the husband trials in order to marry a man who was considered beneath her social status. Ever since then, many angels have continued talking badly about her mother behind her back. Hearing that finally helps Hiraku understand why Kyabit had been so stubborn and defensive about the trials from the very beginning. Not long afterward, Kyabit walks over to Hiraku and sincerely apologizes for how aggressive and defensive she acted earlier. Hiraku was never the type of person to hold grudges against others, so he calmly accepts her apology and officially welcomes her into the village. For the time being, both the angels and the harpies decide to stay together in Village 1. Surprisingly, Kyabit actually turns out to be fairly calm and reasonable under normal circumstances. Although she still gets overly excited from time to time after drinking alcohol, things generally remain peaceful. The Harpies soon begin helping the village with aerial support duties, and Gran Maria along with the others become extremely happy to have their assistance. The very next day, Hirako suddenly notices a giant dragon flying through the sky above the village. At first, he assumes the dragon is preparing to attack them. However, the dragon suddenly transforms into a human and begs Hirako to let him stay at the village for a while. Hirako welcomes him without hesitation, and the newcomer introduces himself as Damon. It then turns out that Damon is actually Hakuren's younger brother and also the youngest son of Driam. Damon explains that the only reason he came to the village is because he is currently running away from someone. Hearing that immediately makes Hirako assume some terrifying enemy must be chasing him down. Not long afterward, a massive dragon suddenly appears outside. Inside the village, Hirako initially assumes that dragon must be the dangerous enemy Damon was talking about. However, the dragon quickly transforms into a young woman who introduces herself as Quan, the woman who is supposed to become Damon's future bride. For some reason though, Damon looks absolutely terrified of her. Driam quickly tries to calm the situation by awkwardly explaining that Damon simply has not been feeling very well lately. However, Quan's intimidating presence alone is enough to make even Driam start trembling in fear. Quan then explains that Damon has recently been avoiding her completely. According to her, he has even started standing her up during their dates. As she keeps talking, she slowly becomes angrier and asks whether Damon is secretly planning to call off their marriage altogether. Before the situation can get even more heated, Hirako suddenly interrupts and says he would like to speak with Damon privately first. Hirako then takes Damon into a separate secluded room. At first, Damon immediately tries to run away again. But Hirako stops him and tells him there is no point trying to escape because he will never truly be able to avoid Quan forever. Hirako tells him to stop running away and properly face the marriage like a man. However, Damon admits that he is genuinely terrified of Quan. Damon then explains that there are several things Quan does that make him uncomfortable, and he wishes she would change those habits. According to him, if she fixed those issues, he honestly would not mind marrying her at all. After hearing that, Hirako pulls out several sheets of paper and tells Damon to write a detailed letter explaining everything he wants his future wife to improve or change. While Damon works on the letter, Hirako goes outside to speak privately with Quan. Hirako explains to Quan that Damon is currently writing down all the things he expects from his future wife. However, Hirako also tells her that marriage is not simply about obeying everything one person says. He explains that Damon also needs to understand and respect Quan's feelings as well. After saying that, Hirako hands Quan some paper too and asks her to write down all of her own expectations and feelings regarding Damon. Quan agrees and heads into another room where she begins writing her own list. For quite a while, the two of them continue exchanging letters back and forth. Through those letters, they slowly begin understanding each other's feelings, worries, and expectations much better than before. Eventually, by the time they are ready to leave the village, both Damon and Quan have completely come to terms with the marriage and finally agree to move forward together peacefully. In the end, Hirako and Hakuren simply stand there watching the two of them leave together, relieved that everything managed to work out in the end. That's it for today. Like and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.